Hello, everyone! Welcome back to the Tabletop Tavern. It is so good to see all of you. For those of you who do not know me, my name is Jenny, aka just Jenny, because that's it. That's all I am. I will be your dungeon master now and forever, so if you are not used to it by now, get used to it immediately. I'm going to let my beautiful, wonderful, talented, handsome, smart, articulate players introduce themselves, beginning with the fabulous, the very red today, Victoria Shaz.
Hi everyone, my name is Victoria and I play Lione LaBelle.
Hi, I'm Pippin and I play Ariadne and Kailte.
Hi, I'm Doe or Doadir and I play Gris Littlefoot.
All right, and for those of you who weren't here last week or have never been here before, we like to start each session with a little rundown of the previous session, last session on the Tabletop Tavern. Quite a bit went down. The players learned that there were quite a few more consequences to Lione's actions than they were anticipating. After a heated debate in which we learned which characters are and are not still likable after nearly 40 sessions together, the players decided to take matters into their own hands, with Gris and Ari demanding that Lione perform a ceremony given to them by the demon Corruption to sort of divvy up the various souls of gods that she'd swallowed like it was a damn candy necklace. When last we left off, the party had just finished the ceremony and, not really feeling any significant changes immediately, had been just about to debrief when there was a knock at the door of the cabin they share together. Ariadne's special friend, Lili, had knocked at the door and said, "Ariadne, are you in there? I need to talk to you."
I push back from the table and I just saunter over and throw the door open.
Oh, I'm sorry. You weren't asleep, were you? I know it's still very early.
No, I am so tired and so happy to see you.
Well, I'm happy to see you too. It's only been a few hours. Are you all right?
It's been, I put a hand on her shoulder, on one on each shoulder, and I'm just like, it has been such a long night. Please come in. And I just usher her in.
She kind of waves.
Lione doesn't do anything.
She steps through the doorway and kind of looks at the other two who are still seated around the dining table and says, well, the thing is, I think it would be better if we had this discussion in the inn.
Oh, fair enough.
Friends are welcome to come. It's, it's sort of news about the country.
Oh god, okay. And Lione stands.
About country?
I expect it's about what that tablet was telling us about.
A halfling war?
So, yeah, by all means.
Gris go to the inn and then Lili can tell us.
Gris shuffles to her feet and heads towards the door and Lili and Ari.
I feel like Lione would walk out last.
Okay. So Lili is going to lead Ari and Gris in the direction of the inn, which, for those of you who don't remember, is about 100 yards from the cabin itself.
As Lione is walking, can she look to the sky?
Yeah.
Is there a sun rising?
Let's get you to roll a perception check.
Okay.
Good.
That's unsettling. Okay, that, what's my perception modifier? You would think I would know it by this point, right?
I was gonna say, I've made it very clear from the first session.
Yeah.
I don't know shit about your characters and I refuse to learn.
This is 17.
So with the 17 perception, you look up towards the sky. You're all sort of passing through the various gardens in the back of the inn. You pass by the goat pen and the chickens who sort of cluck lazily at you as you pass by. Gris, one of them lets out a particularly loud squawk to let you know that it's displeased with the quality of grain it's been receiving recently. Lione, you sort of look up to the sky. What you notice is something that your party members could easily notice too if they looked up, and I'll let you know what you're aware of once I get there. But Lione, you look up and you're unable to tell if there is a sun in the sky because what should be a beautiful, clear springtime blue sky has been obscured by gray-red haze. The light outside has been turned kind of orange by this thick smoke that really blocks out most of the sunlight. Your friends ahead of you surely have noticed this because ash drifts from the sky, slowly sort of peppering your hair and clothes. Gris's hair looks more gray than usual, more gray than red for once. Lione, the dark clothing you've taken to wearing sort of is also covered in this thin layer of ashy dust. Ariadne, you notice that sort of scattered among this dust is embers. Something within probably 20 to 30 miles of you is burning. And burning quickly.
I take Lily's hand.
Lili gives you a squeeze, and you sort of notice for the first time since seeing her this morning that she is, she's not trembling, per se. She's not really a trembler. She comes off as soft, but you know that she's got sort of an edge to her that other people don't necessarily recognize. But she definitely seems nervous. As you arrive at the back door to the inn that cuts through the kitchen and to the rest of the building, you do notice that she lets go of your hand and sort of straightens up, arranges her hair as to sort of cover her ears, and sort of goes back to a collective sort of innkeeper, business owner air that you are unfamiliar with seeing on her. She's sort of very casual about all this business. She's more likely to sit behind the counter and read a book and give sort of half-hearted hellos to travelers than to seem overtly pulled together.
Do we all notice her do this?
I think Ariadne notices that you really are kind of focused on the sky.
Okay.
Gris, I'm going to have you roll a quick animal handling check.
Okay.
You could also roll a nature check, whichever one is higher.
Oh, I mean, nature's higher, but I got 19 plus 3, 22.
That'll be good enough.
Okay.
So
Probably sufficient.
you pass by the chickens and then to the goats, which are sort of, their pens built up against the building, which allows for kind of better coverage when it rains, or in situations like this. You notice that all the goats have gathered into the hutch within the goat pen, and as you pass by, you can feel sort of emanating from them anxiety and tension. These are animals that if they were free would be running, the way that you have seen all manner of creatures run from wildfires when they occur in the grove.
But they're not in any immediate danger. They've got some covering. They're just anxious. And
Exactly.
intense. Can Gris go ahead and do a little speak with animals action here?
Yeah, absolutely. You want to talk to the goats?
Yeah, I want to talk to the goats, my friends.
All right,
Nice
you can talk to the
minutes.
goats.
Gris kind of like walks up to the pen and kind of pokes her head up over the fence and just kind of is like, "Are you guys okay?"
Fire! Burning!
Yeah. I know. It's okay. You'll be safe here, I promise. Do you need anything in the meantime?
Loud booms. Nighttime. Scary.
Would you rather be indoors?
People. Scary.
Right. Food? Water?
Food. No. Not hungry. Scared.
Gris is like really like processing, and she's like, "Man, there's gotta be something I can do."
What
And-
noises is Gris making right now?
You can hear Gris go.
Lione looks at Gris and goes, I think they're fine.
They're not
I
fine.
think
They're
we should-
absolutely terrified.
What can you
Leo.
do? What can you do?
Well, I don't know. Do you think any of... And she kind of like looks at Lili and Ari and whispers so that only hopefully Lione can hear. She's like, "Do you think any of my gods can do anything for
Lione casts message. I think that's something we can talk about later.
Gris kind of turns back to the goats and like stands up again on her tippy toes, and she's like, "I'll be back, okay? I'll try to find a way to make it less loud and scary, okay?"
That one is untranslatable. It literally is just loud goat bleating.
Gris nods enthusiastically as if she knows what it means, and then turns to follow Lione and head inside.
All right, Lili pushes open the door to the kitchen. The kitchen looks much as it did the night before, Gris, when you sort of tidied it up. You do notice that someone has made large quantities of what appears to be a simple porridge. Ariadne, you have never seen Lili make porridge in your life. This is a woman who loves to cook. She may not be particularly enthused on innkeeping, but she does enjoy cooking and sort of artistic expression in general. This looks to be what you recognize as an elvish dish, largely prepared during times when food is low. It's very filling. A small portion will keep you full for most of the day. It requires very few ingredients, some grains, some milk, and a little bit of sugar, not much else. And you've really only had it while being trained in the temple, when it was actually sort of a test of will to subsist on this and nothing else. You also notice that there are no bowls left in the kitchen, Gris.
Does Lione notice anything?
Lione, whatever is in that pot looks nasty.
Lili, what is going on? That does not look like you're cooking. What is happening here? And why is there so much food?
Yeah, I turn to Lili, like going off Lione, and just go, how many are there?
There's no bowls.
Well, as many as we could fit in the beds and on the floors, plus maybe 10 members of the Elves army and another maybe 5 elven scouts from the forest, and then, well, I mean, the rest are all refugees, obviously. I think maybe it's best if you just... And she sort of pushes open the door to the tavern area of the inn. Through the door, you can see just dozens of people. They're seated at the various long tables. Several are gathered around the fireplace. Several more sit on the floor. Several halfling children sort of run around. They appear to be playing tag. Gris, you actually recognize it as a game you used to play as a young child. That is a little bit like tag, but there's quite a bit of make-believe involved. It's called Fairies and Wood Elves, though you wouldn't dare call it that in front of Ariadne. Not because it's particularly offensive in nature, it just seems odd to have halfling children pretend to be what they're not. Lione, you notice several uniforms you recognize as being members of the army of the king. Many refer to it as the Elves army, but they are sort of omnipresent in the capital due to its status as a large trade city. You do know that this was the particular military group with which Marius's navy was affiliated. It's also sort of how you recognize it, although these are very obviously uniforms intended for combat. There's sort of heavier armor, large seals marking the armor to kind of demonstrate to whom they report for command. Ariadne,
Yes.
This inn has been largely empty for months. There have been fewer and fewer travelers as things have kind of heated up, so to speak, throughout the world. You know that in order for the inn to be this full, something large must have happened politically, or major advances need to have been made in the war between the halflings of the south and the region of Aquera and Stone Sea.
Mm-hmm.
Lione looks at Lili and says, all of this happened overnight?
You didn't hear the cannon fire?
We were otherwise engaged.
Gris kind of like rolls up her sleeves quickly and like kind of.
Is anyone injured? That's probably the first question.
That's what I was going to say. Does anybody need help? Can I help anyone?
Lili kind of lets her eyes slide past Lione and looks to Gris and smiles and goes, I'm sure they would be happy to accept any help you have to offer. You're more than welcome to go speak with them. And you are not from the south, correct? You are from the Sea of Trees? Yes. Okay. All right. Well, it's not good, but I'm glad to hear that presumably your family's safe.
I hope they are. I hope none of them have gotten tangled up in this. And she kind of lets out a big exhale and begins just kind of rummaging through her satchel absentmindedly, looking for, supplies and things like that.
Lili sort of looks at you, Ariadne, and covertly does like a little sort of makes eye contact with you and shifts her eyes very quickly to Lione and then looks back at you and maintains eye contact for several seconds without saying anything.
I mean, Leone's been watching Lili, so for the briefest moment, their eyes connect.
And I think that at that connection, she goes, Lady LaBelle, there are members of the A-list military here, and they sort of refuse to
them.
Tell me anything.
I will figure out what's going on, and I'll let you, the least you need to know, the absolute least you need to know is why everyone is here, so I will go and figure this out.
Thank you, yes, and if you could maybe let them know that we don't necessarily have the appropriate rations, so if they plan to keep people here, we are happy to help, but we will need subsidies from the military.
Absolutely. I can also help. I know that's probably not what you want to hear, but...
No, it's not necessarily money that's the issue.
I know, but I have it just in case. Just know that I have it.
Well, forage. I can help with that.
Yes, it's just...
sourcing the food.
Well, you talk to them and then you'll understand. Yeah. Yes.
Leon walks over to the guards.
Cool. I take steps forward to Lili to sort of convene. But before I do that, can I look at the guards? Do their uniforms look at all familiar to me?
To you, Ariadne, what context would you like to know their familiarity before I make you roll for
that
this?
It's not like what I'm wearing in the dream world.
Oh.
Let's roll a... let's roll a an insight check, and we're going to call that a DC 15.
Okay. 9 plus 3, 12.
You sort of take a good look at their uniforms. They don't look overtly similar to what you're wearing in the dream. They're definitely of the same sort of bulkier armor than what you would typically wear. So in that way, they look similar. Yeah. They are soldiers' greaves, but you don't really recognize any of the sigils that they wear.
Awesome. Cool. Then I just go up to Lili.
Lili looks at you for a moment and sort of flits her eyes back to Leone's form, kind of going back through the crowd. And she sort of steps a little bit back, sort of taking your hand in the direction of Gris, who's sort of more in a shadowy corner of the kitchen. And you sort of watch as she does something that you are familiar with as someone who grew up in the forest. And she almost seems to like melt into the shadows where you would really have to squint to notice that she's there with you. And then she sort of grabs your hand and pulls you down to be level with Gris, so that all three of you are on the same level. And she goes, "Did you tell Miss Littlefoot what we talked about?"
Not necessarily, but she was on the same page. And for better or worse, we're better equipped.
So, what the hell happened last night, Ariadne? There's no way you didn't hear what was happening unless something happened.
We
looks at Ari.
Yeah. I'm like, I just look at Gris quickly, and I'm just like, just give me a second. And I turn to Lili and I go, you're right. We didn't. We were in the dream world.
With Lione?
Yes. And we fought a whole lot of gods. And while we're back, she had more than, she had like a dozen. We've now split them.
Exactly a dozen. And now 4. And Gris kind of points vaguely to where like Lione is. 4?
So, while not ideal, at least she's not absolutely out of our league in terms of power.
Less over God and more just God.
And Gris, did Ariadne told you what I asked of them?
Gris kind of like looks at Ari like, did you? And she kind of looks at Lili again and she's like, I'm not sure.
Yeah, I turned to Gris and I'm like, no, we didn't quite get the chance, but she's not, we don't trust her.
Oh, Lione? Absolutely not. Of course not. That's why we did this, Ari.
All I'm thinking is that, first of all, it's good that you're now on perhaps an elevated playing field, because I had a dream last night.
You did?
As did I, and
Me too.
yeah.
I had a dream that you were standing in the dream realm, Gris, and Ariadne was at your feet, and Lione was there in what I have to assume was her wedding dress, and she had... This is going to sound crazy, but she had killed Ariadne, and I need to know, Gris, that if it comes to it, you will choose Ari over Lione. Because I can't watch another person I love never come home to me.
It's just like nods enthusiastically and clenches at her hands and she's like, Lili, I'm hoping that the decision that Ari and I made last night will prevent that. And she like once again looks at Ari.
I like run my hands through Lily's hair and I like rest my hand on her cheek and I just like look at her and I'm like, that must have been so scary and I am so sorry. But Gris is right. What we did is to change that fate, because as of last night, you probably weren't wrong.
Because I also had a similar dream. Well, kind of similar. I was back home, with Reese, and I was digging a grave, and now I'm wondering if it was Ari's.
Well, that's what I look at Gris and I just like give like a this is great sort of like just sigh and go, oh, well, that's exactly what we're trying to avoid.
Gris like reaches out and takes Lily's hands in hers and she like stares her in the eyes as intently as possible and she says, I hope you trusted me to do the right thing, okay?
Miss Littlefoot, I trust you to the ends of the earth. But I worry that there's nothing anyone can do. I'm sorry. I should go check on the guests. Some of them do need medical attention. I'm sure.
I'll do some rounds. And then Gris kind of like looks to Ari and says, I could maybe use your help if you don't mind.
Of course. I like pull back a little and I just like look at Lili and I go, I mean, Gris was pretty much ready to just knock Lione the fuck out last night for me. So, I think, and I look at Gris, I think I'm in good hands.
Gris kind of chuckles at that one.
That's good, but I ask that if you have to, you be willing to do a lot more.
Gris closes her eyes and nods, and she says, at the end of the day, Lili, it's very hard to choose between two people, between two lives. But I will make absolute sure that I'm doing everything I can for Ari. Okay?
Thank you. And she stands up, and Ariadne gives you a kiss on the cheek and whispers in your ear, very quietly, in Sylvan, I love you. And what matters most to me is that you come back safe.
I would just whisper back, in Sylvan too. I will always come home to you. I love you.
Gris kind of pretends to be busy with something else. Gris does speak Sylvan.
I mean, it wasn't her ears.
Oh my fucking goodness.
So Gris is just I love and I hate that it's happening now. And so she kind of grabs some bandages and what looks to be a couple of glass vials of some pre-made poultices and sort of shuffles towards the door and says, I'll be over here when you're ready, Ari.
And Gris, what language do you say that in?
I'll say it in Sylvan.
Lili goes from a little bit teary to bright red.
Gris just is it's good, it's fine.
All right.
Yes, I squeeze her hand and sort of let her go.
All right. So she sort of wades out into the throng of people and kneels down to a child who appears to be sitting on the floor crying and begins to speak with them. Lione, meanwhile, sort of as this conversation is happening in the kitchen, you enter the primary area of the tavern. It's very crowded here. You could have sworn you saw several members of the military just moments ago, but as you enter the room, you sort of have to take a moment to catch your breath and reassess the situation. If you want to speak to someone specific or look for someone specific, I will need a perception check.
Yeah, I can roll a perception check. I wanna find the platoon of guards. I feel like the platoon of soldiers would probably stay together. And they'd likely be taller, especially since a lot of the people that are refugees are probably halflings.
The majority of them are halflings. There are a few elves, a few humans, but it looks like most of the elves are members of sort of the elven scout groups that the military employs.
So that's a 16 perception.
All right, you take a moment to look around the tavern. It is crowded. There are halflings everywhere. Some of them play games. They've got sort of decks of cards, various sort of almost like hand-drawn board games created from, it looks like, pebbles and pieces of parchment. There's also quite a few children. Like I said, they are playing. You can see one of them sort of looking around, confused. There's quite a few older people as well, sort of seated around tables, talking to each other. Many looked about Gris's age. You also see quite a few other people crying. It is very obvious that this has been a difficult relocation. It appears to have been done very suddenly. A few hold small bags of various possessions, but most seem to have nothing but the clothes on their back. You do see, seated around one of the longer tables, what appears to be a platoon of soldiers. There's about 8 of them, most of them young men between the ages of probably 18 and around your age, 27, 28. They all appear to be under the command of a man who looks Between somewhere in his late 20s to early 30s.
Lione can pick him out.
Yes, you recognize him not necessarily by the fact that he is wearing a uniform. His uniform does appear to be very similar to the others, although there is a bright stripe painted across his armor that appears to delineate him from the other soldiers. But what you recognize him as being the leader for is actually sort of how he carries himself. While the rest are seated, he is standing at the head of the table. He appears to be giving instructions. And as you watch, a older halfling man approaches him and asks a question, and the man seems to answer it with an air of authority. You recognize this particular air of authority as being the one that Marius has taken on with your less savory acquaintances in the past. Not necessarily unfriendly, but very much an air of being in charge and outranking someone.
Lione knows that air very well. She does it in her own way, because she is nobility, right? And she's insufferable, and so she
she used to be so likable,
right? And so she kind of like squares her shoulders back and walks directly towards him, kind of just like in the way that she would walk anywhere where she has a purpose. She always walks with an air of authority. It's kind of like her thing. That's how she gets through things. That's also why she's literally always noticed and can't do stealth for shit. So she walks up to him and says, hello there, sir. I am the Lady Lione the Belle. I was hoping I could discuss the goings-on with you, given your status.
He takes a moment, looks you up and down, and grins at you. Are you the Lady Lione the Belle who's marrying the almost Admiral Steele?
Is the very same. I am betrothed to Marius.
Yeah! Oh, I got an invite recently to your wedding. Unfortunately, I don't think I'm going to make it. I sent an RSVP that said yes. I don't know if my retraction's gonna reach him in time.
Oh, good. I will let him know.
Okay, well, that's quite helpful. Thank you.
I mean, at this rate, am I even gonna make it to my own wedding, given what's going on?
Well, that is a legitimate question.
What should I call you?
Me? Oh.
Yes.
Oh, well, these ones all have to call me Commander, but, I think for a friend of a friend, or, well, I won't say a bedfellow of a friend, because that strikes me as a little rude for a lady, but,
Fiancé
all that
of a friend.
There we go. All that aside, well, you can call me Leo. Plenty of other friends call me Leonardo, but really that makes me feel like I'm in trouble. Leonardo of House Red Lion at your service.
Lione says, fantastic. Leo, what has happened? What happened? I've been here since last night, and this place was empty.
Well, you must be quite the heavy sleeper, then.
I am.
Well, it's a little complicated.
Yeah. I know about the war.
Well, that's
a good first step, right?
Yeah, I would hope that you do. Well, let's see. There was just a few days ago a large push from the halfling forces against Stonesea and Aquera. Stonesea was hesitant to really engage beyond that of, primary skirmishes, but as you know, Aquera does have, their own sort of governance system. They've got their own
I know
board
it much better
there.
than you think I do.
Yeah, they didn't want to recognize the authority of the king and did declare war in response, and retaliated last night. They launched largely a naval campaign, and we're not quite sure how their cannons have reached as far as they have. Surely it's got to be some kind of enchantment. We're not...
Mm-hmm.
I have to say, I'm not necessarily an expert on the military applications of magic, or magic itself, but, what can you say? Some people are. So, the king ordered to action large swaths of military. He has yet to activate the navy, but I from what I understand, that should be within the next week or so. Yes. Well, quite a few halflings were displaced as a result of this attack. Several villages were completely destroyed without any warning. So the king activated us and then contracted the service of several platoons of wood elves to guide the halflings. Hopefully to Aelus is the goal, but there's been some pushback in what that might look like for the city itself. So for now,
already very densely populated, so I can understand why that pushback is happening. It's
unfortunately, Lady LaBelle, most cities are fairly heavily populated these days. So for now, well, my platoon was in charge of coordinating evacuations for the southwest quadrant, and those that couldn't find lodging within the city here have been redirected to this inn. The Lady of the Inn is very helpful, by the way. I don't know if you know her, but she's yes. Well, when we first arrived, she threatened me with a sword, and then when I showed her the credentials, she let us all in. But feisty.
I generally tend to stay with people like that, so can't be surprised about that. Question for you, a few. The king. You're part of his platoon directly. You're not Aelus Guard.
Well, yeah. I mean, we are members of the military. We don't report directly to him, obviously. There's admirals and high commanders that take orders. I don't know how greatly involved he is in this. He seems to be more on the political end of things, I think.
From what you understand, is he okay? Last I heard, he was ill.
That is not the kind of knowledge I would be privy to.
That's fair. I figured it was worth a shot. Okay. I mean, I was speaking to the owner of the inn right before I came over to speak to you. How long do you think you'll all be here? There's not enough rations for...
Well, I understand what becomes complicated with the rations. Unfortunately, the governor of Aelus and the aldermen here have ordered a blockade. So our services are also being used to construct physical barriers that will hopefully stop any sort of push, military or otherwise, towards the capital. Our goal is to preserve the quality of life for settlements beyond here and leave them largely unaffected by combat as we determine our next steps. That obviously makes it quite difficult to move any sort of supplies in and out.
So this blockade isn't moving refugees? Are you telling me that we're stuck here?
Well, my lady, I don't want to make it sound like you don't have the option to leave, but yes, there is no physical movement between here and Aelus. All trade has been ordered to cease by command of the king, and, well, from what I understand, in response to what appears to be the magical nature of the Aquarian attack, the king has contracted various wizards and the like to put up magical defenses that prevent magical movement between here and Aelus.
Long.
For how long? Well, I suppose it depends how long it takes either our military to frighten them back to their island, or for our king to contract an accord with their emperor, as he calls himself.
If you had to give me a guess based on what you've been seeing.
You're asking a lot of me, ma'am. I'm no military genius.
My knowledge.
I would say, at minimum, a week and a half before we can get any movement happening between Ayla and Aylis. I wouldn't say that would be the end of combat, but that would be approximately how long it would take us to secure the route. Yes.
Okay. Have you heard about the magic that Aquara is using? What have you heard? I feel like that is not technology that they had before.
Ma'am, that's not information I'm allowed to divulge to civilians.
Okay.
I see you. Were you getting out dice there,
Oh.
Lione? Okay, I was like, all right, I mean, you can make some checks if you want to, but...
My pen.
Okay.
I only ask. I myself am a magic user. And I'll be stuck here with you in the platoon, so I don't... If I can lend a hand in any way, shape, or form, I'm not going to join the army.
Are you a wizard?
I'm a sorceress.
Well, Lady LaBelle, from what I understand, the schools of magic are very different between casters. That is not to shed any sort of disparaging light on what skills you may have. It is merely that I think that for anyone to be able to combat what has been cast thus far, they would have to have great skill. A particular wizard school.
What are the odds that I'd be able to get a letter to Aylis?
A letter?
Would you be able to help me with that?
Let me check. And he sort of like turns away from you and back towards this table of young men, all of whom are like sort of like looking at the gruel on their spoons. None of them seem particularly interested in eating it. A couple of them are sort of roughhousing between each other. It definitely looks like sort of, you know, you got a bunch of college-age guys together and put them in heavy armor, but they're not necessarily the most well-trained recruits. Privates, and all of them sort of like look up at him. A few of them have been using their spoons as quasi-swords and sort of freeze mid-mock fight and like very slowly lower the spoons as they look at him. Yeah, yes, sir, what's happening? One of you was in charge of collecting any mail en route to the city. Which one of you was it? That would be Jacobs, sir. This kid, who apparently is Jacobs, glares at the kid who's speaking, and you notice that he can't be older than 18. Like, he's got acne, is sort of that, like, particular brand of self-conscious that really only older teenagers have. And he sort of goes, yeah, I have the mail. What do you need it for? I would, the lady here would be interested in seeing if she's received any mail. And the kid's sort of like, yeah, here. And he lifts up from the ground, obviously struggling, a large bag of mail. This was, with the guy just leaving Aylis when we left that we took the mail from. I hope that's helpful.
Going back to Aylis to send any more mail?
No, ma'am. My job is here to protect the refugees.
Lione looks at Leo.
Leo, like, shrugs and goes, my orders come from, much higher powers than yourself, ma'am.
So there's no chance that I could get a letter to Aylis?
Not unless you know well, I guess it depends how good of a wizard he is.
Okay. Lione looks back at Leo and says, if I paid your recruit, could he look through the mail for me? It's a lot of mail. It's a lot of mail.
Well, actually,
I'll pay him.
Hang on. Jacobs, what? What's up? Yes, sir? Do you know how to read? Yes, sir. I know letters. I know common letters. I can't read any other languages, sir. Yeah.
Common. Yeah.
You could pay him, or, listen, Lady LaBelle, let's call this a wedding present.
Oh,
Jacobs, your new orders are to search through the mail and look for anything addressed to the Lady Lione LaBelle. Is there any other names you should look?
Yeah, Ariadne Ankailta and Gris Littlefoot.
All right, you're also looking for letters to Ariadne Ankailta and Gris Littlefoot.
Will I ever get it right?
Good luck. Oh, okay. How do you spell that? The middle one? How do you? What is it? That
It's
sounds.
Cailte.
Okay, and ma'am, I can't read Elvish, so if there's anything that would be in Elvish, I just want to
Just let me know if you see.
Okay.
Anything, just it should
Okay.
be fine. I'm sure it'll be in common.
All right, sounds good. And he sort of like looks between you and his commanding officer, who does like a little menacing neck crack, and the kid pushes all of the food away from him for like a 5-foot radius and just dumps the mail on the table and begins to sort through it in front of you. Ari, Gris, what are you doing?
I think the Gris has probably at this point given Ari like supplies to hold and have at the ready, and Gris is probably like awkwardly moving through crowds and groups and saying, "Does anybody need help?" And she's kind of like looking specifically probably at the elderly and children specifically at this point.
So you're starting with sort of the elderly people and the children, is what I'm hearing.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so you are moving through sort of this throng of people. The older people are all sort of settled around the fireplace. They seem to have congregated together, and most are exchanging stories. In Halfling, can I get a perception check, DC 12?
Okay.
You want advantage? You can have advantage. I'll give you advantage.
Okay, that's better. 16.
All right, a 16. You are pushing through the people. You are sort of stopping to check on each elderly person. You say elderly. The oldest is probably 85, and the rest appear to be sort of around your age. You stop, you peer into their faces. Quite a few you do lay a hand on to take their temperatures. You approach an armchair near the fire. Whoever is in the chair has their back to you, and as you approach, you place a comforting hand on their hand. What sort of comforting thing do you lead with when you want to check someone's health?
I imagine she would just kind of say, "Hi there, how are you feeling?"
You ask this as you round to the front of the chair. As you ask it, the person in the chair grins at you from beneath an untamed mop of dark, curly hair streaked with gray and goes, "I'm a lot better now, chickadee. I didn't know you were here. What are you doing here?"
Reese? What are you doing here?
Oh, I received a letter from my brother that he needed help.
You have not been helping in a war, Reese Littlefoot.
No, I feel like maybe there's some clarification that needs to happen here,
maybe
Griselda. So. All right, you are very accusatory. Has anyone
Ari
ever told
is
you?
just grinning and like ping-ponging between the
Accusatory? But you should tell your wife before you go to participate in a war.
I was under the impression I was going to go help them with the animals as well. Obviously, things have been evolving, and they thought that maybe they would have to leave, so I told them that I would help them move their things to the grove, and I thought it would be a nice surprise for you to come home, and my brother, his son, has children, so I thought that you would be very excited about the fact that suddenly there were kids at the house, and yes, they're here, Griselda. You need to calm down sometimes. You have...
She kind of just like slumps down and just kind of like drops her bag to the floor and like finally like leans into the armchair and like wraps her arms around his neck, and like she just does that like deep inhale that you do when you haven't seen someone in a long time and you like miss their scent, and she's like, "I'm so mad at you, but I'm so glad you're here," and she just squeezes him really tight and then pulls back and gives him a kiss.
He, like, lifts you up off of your feet by leaning back in the chair, which is definitely, like, a person-sized chair, so there's quite a bit of room to lean back. And he laughs the entire time as he lifts you up. And he goes, "Oh, I missed you, chickadee. You are You are feisty, you are smart, you are determined, and you are not good at writing me letters.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Please know that I miss you and I love you dearly and I'm so glad to see you, but oh my god, I can't, there's so much going on and I just, you know me, I get distracted and I can't sit down for long enough and I try to write a letter and instead, Leone's getting married. Did you get the invitation?
I did get the invitation. Actually, that's part of, it arrived at the Grove, and then, I have your protege. Her name's at the tip of my tongue.
Nix.
Yes. Nix is she's at the house. I left her in charge of the animals and everything. So she then had the letter forwarded to me at my brother's home, and it didn't reach me. Instead, it reached some pimply kid who then gave it to me, and I gave him quite the lecture on mail security and how he shouldn't go through with other. But you look beautiful.
Oh, no.
You do.
No.
Your friends haven't been.
I look at Gris and I just go, I mean, in your defense, we've had a long night.
Except it was a long night. I look terrible. And then she's like, say hi to Ari, please, Reese.
I like, with my arms full of things, I like move it in a wave motion because I can't take my arms off it.
He like reaches out to like give you a hug, realizes your arms in full, and goes, Griselda, did you pull the little, I'm too old, you have to carry my things routine again?
No, this wasn't an old thing. This is people are hurting. Speaking of, are people hurting? Have you seen any people hurting?
Plenty of people are hurting. But we have a few moments to catch up. You are my wife, first. I love you, and I want to make sure that you are okay before you go around and take care of, you give too much of yourself to other people, Griselda.
That's 27 health.
About that. So I've given a lot of myself recently to some powerful people, and she's like saying this in like emphasizing these words aggressively, like trying to be like, there's something we need to talk about, but not here.
He's sort of squinting at you as you do this, like taking you in, and he gives you like a little shove back with his foot, not particularly hard, but enough to tell you to kind of back up for a moment so he can take you in. And he goes, "You've been in the dream world."
Yeah, really recently. And also not recently. Never mind. We'll talk about that later.
Did you tell him about the second time?
I feel like
because I haven't been back. I haven't seen him since then.
Yeah, you were. There was the interim.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. You have seen him. You have seen him.
Then yes, he does know. Okay. And she's just like, so things in the dream world changed. Dream our dream selves. Very different now, by the way. And she kind of like looks over her shoulder at Ari, and she's like, Ari has armor and theirs. And
he sort of takes a moment.
Lot of good it did me. I died.
And
there was a
sort of like squints at you, Ariadne, for a moment, and his eyes get really big. And he goes, "Oh, I think maybe, Gris, I know we have a lot of catching up to do, Chickadee, and believe me when I would say I would rather catch up with you in more than one way." And he gives you like one of those like weird old people winks where they're just not good at subtle flirting at all.
Yeah.
I just like roll my eyes and I was just like,
and he goes,
Chris just looks at Ari like, the kitchen earlier, do you not remember?
Tit for tat.
And he goes, "But I think Ariadne and I need to talk a little more urgently than you and I do."
Oh, okay.
No chance it's about carpentry, I suppose.
Well, I mean, we can talk about that too, kiddo. We've got lots of time, but no. I think maybe you and I need to. Well, we can't really take a walk.
Well, we have
you can our cabin. If you.
Oh,
it's
yes.
Also much quieter.
You
should see your room. He hasn't seen your room yet, Gris.
You have to see the quilt that Lili made. It is incredible. It will remind you of home, and we'll spend some time with it later, maybe. And she gives him like an aggressive wink back, and she's like grabs his hands quickly, and she's like, "I'm so glad to see you. Please take care of Ariadne. I love you very much. I have things to do. Goodbye. And she like kind of pushes him away and kind of like slaps that ass real quick.
Yeah, you give him like kind of like a flirty slap, and he does find, as you like hurry away, the just enough time to like pinch your butt cheek, and like waits for you to do like a little like
Before she gets
flirting.
too far, I clear my throat loudly, and then I like kneel down, and I'm like forgetting something.
And Gris is like trying to take all the stuff back from Ari, and she's like, "Okay, have fun." And she kind of like looks between Reese and Ari and like down, and she's like, "I have things to do," and just kind of shuffles away, like glasses clinking and like rolls of like gauze or bandages probably spewing out of her arms.
Can Lione see that happening across?
You can't tell who they're talking to, but you do see Gris very excited, like hurry away from the armchair, and Ariadne kneel down to speak to someone in the armchair. Before you're really able to like catch up with your friends, though, you are approached by one of the wood elves you saw earlier. They sort of come to you and they shoot a look towards Ariadne as they begin to speak to you. I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to eavesdrop. You sort of like look at this. You realize this is a woman. Her hair is cut very short to her head. And her face is painted. She's got sort of speckled patterns that, in the light of the forest, surely must blend in with the shadows thrown by tree leaves. She is wearing what appears to be sort of armor made from tree bark, though it has been carved very elegantly and is decorated in sort of swirling carved patterns. Her hair is sort of a dark auburn color, and her skin very much resembles Ariadne's in tone. Her eyes are a light gold, and she speaks with a soft Sylvan accent. It seems that she has not been speaking in the common tongue for very long, though she speaks it perfectly fluently. I didn't mean to eavesdrop, but I heard you are looking for someone to run the mail. Can you repeat that? I don't think your microphone.
Oh, sorry. Lione just says, I am. Are you offering?
I am not offering my services per se, but I would perhaps be able to help you in exchange for some information.
What information are you looking for? I am afraid I don't have as much as you probably think I do.
Who is your friend?
He's the commander.
No.
Ah.
You have a child of the forest with you.
Yes. Their name is Ariadne.
Ariadne. And do you know where they are from?
They've never actually told us.
I simply wonder because we have been told that the children who stay far from the forest for too long meet horrible fates. And I do not know your friend, nor have I seen them, and I have lived nearly 2 centuries.
I know that they are a monk of the monastery of Sylvanus, right? Of Sylvanus.
Well, that is good, I suppose, but it is simply odd. Do you think they would be bothered if I approached them?
Perhaps. What is your name?
My name?
Yes.
She sort of narrows her eyes at you for a moment before speaking again. My name? Well, I think it would be easiest for you to pronounce my nickname. Lili.
Okay. Will you be staying here? If you approach Ariadne, I don't know how they'll react, but I can tell them that you want to speak to them.
Yes.
And they can find you.
I would appreciate that. I will be staying as long as the lady of the inn will allow us. I was nervous to come here because I did not realize that she was, well, her mother was a forest child as well. Her father was one of the city elves, but she allows us to use her forest where we are more comfortable to sleep. Are you staying in the home behind?
Yes.
Interesting.
Why?
Her eyes narrow at you for a second and she goes, tell me, are you familiar with any of our songs? Ariadne, you and Gris are now sort of looking at each other. He kind of like Grandpa hauls himself out of the chair and takes a few steps towards you and goes, I know you mentioned something about a cabin or something. That's over. I think we only need a few moments to speak and I'll let you go. But
Okay.
why don't we talk in the kitchen?
Fair enough. And I sort of hold a hand down, like, please.
You are gesturing for him to follow, but instead he seems to think that you are offering him a hand to hold, and he like takes it and he goes, I suppose you could show me the way?
Of course. And
I love him so much.
I just take a second and I'm like, right. And I head towards the kitchen.
It's such a Gris thing, and I love it.
So you guide him to the kitchen.
My arm is probably a little stiff where I'm just like, I don't. Okay.
You can tell they've been married for like 40 years, and so like every stupid little thing each of them did has just like melded into each other.
Just like two a little bit socially awkward, like way too comfortable with physical touch people. You lead him to the kitchen, and he sort of shuts the door behind you two, and he reaches into the satchel that hangs around his shoulders and pulls out a sort of small blanket. It appears to be sort of hand woven. It's not very well made. Whoever made it, maybe sewing isn't their strongest skill, but it appears to be well loved. And he lays it out down on the ground almost like a picnic blanket and sits cross-legged, tapping the ground in front of him.
I go ahead and I sit like sort of cross-legged and just sort of like take a moment to like stretch and do all of these things where I'm like, oh my god, there's so much.
He like kind of lets you settle, and then once you're settled, just full on grabs your face. And pulls it towards him. He like searches your face with his eyes. You notice that they are very dark brown, almost so brown they're almost black. He searches your eyes for a few moments and then lets go of your face and goes, That's not very good.
Could you be more specific? I know I don't look great, but as I told Gris, it's been a long night.
No, not that. I mean, you should sleep, yes, but I don't think it matters much.
Yeah, I also, I think I could get better use out of those hours if things go south.
Yes, so...
I, like, look back, shake myself, and look back at him.
Well, as you know, Griselda and I are members of a circle dedicated to exploring the dream realm. She's a little bit more practical than I am. I quite enjoy the theory of it, but when you spend enough time in the dream realm, you learn quite a bit about how to see it, even when you are in the waking world. And
I'm surprised you'd want to.
well, it's not all bad. You've had quite a go of things, but there are a lot of answers that can be found there that simply can't be found here, Ariadne. I'm a man who lives in pursuit of knowledge. And beautiful women, as you can tell.
Your taste is impeccable.
Oh, thank
but
you.
But I must
know.
admit, ignorance is quite comfortable.
Well, yes, I suppose so. But here's the thing, Ariadne. She's the only woman I've ever loved. And you would think that maybe that love would fade with time, but something tells me you know that love can't really ever fade.
I suppose.
Well, all I'm saying is you can grow apart from someone or lose someone or grow old with someone, and it doesn't change your feelings. You can learn to love again, but you're never going to let go of... Look at me, I'm an old man, I tend to babble, we tend to babble, we're very philosophical, and anyways, my love for Griselda aside, and I do love her, I've loved her since we were children.
We've heard, it's very, very adorable.
Yes, thank you. Well, I wasn't looking for that, but I was looking to talk to you about that troubling dream form you've acquired. Now, I'm sure that you know that it's directly linked with fate and all that, right?
I had an inkling, if you will. It's quite different. Last I know, I wasn't conscripted, so it's quite confusing.
Yes. Well, the dream world cares very little for the reality of your current situation.
That I believe.
Well, here's what I have to say to you. Fate is uncomfortable, Ariadne. Coming to terms with things you can't change is heartbreaking and difficult, and I'm not sure I have the advice you might want, but I know that Gris loves you like the child we could never have. And I know that it will hurt her to lose you. And I think you and I both know that there's not much you can do to change that. But when you learn something about your fate and about how it cannot change and cannot waver no matter how hard you try, it is natural to feel sad and to want to change it, and I would encourage you to think of your fate not as something that is changeable, but of something that is immutable. That you accept it now so you can treasure what little time you have left.
I just give a smile and I'm like, so it doesn't work, huh?
Well, I mean, if you could change your fate, I'd be in Dreamer's Grove with dozens of children. It's not the life I was given. You just drew a short straw, and I would say maybe take comfort in knowing that you have a hero's death. I know it's maybe not what you wanted to hear, but from what I understand, you don't really have any parents to speak of, at least not
ones that would really care right now.
So
but I do. She may not be my mom, but I have two people out there who may not be happy to hear your news.
Well, it's not really my news, is it?
Going with the messenger bit? Okay.
Well, no, Ariadne. I think what I'm trying to say is that for some, ignorance is bliss. And Gris would tell you that a lie by omission is still a lie, but there are things that are more painful to know in advance. Maybe it would be easier on the ones you love to let them think you're coming home.
You know what? Usually I'd agree with her, but you're not wrong. And I can't say that it's solely because it'll be easier for them, but I don't know that I could watch them know that, you know? And I offer my hand over again.
He takes it and gives it a squeeze and looks at you with the most fatherly expression on his face. And he says, for what it's worth, and we don't know each other very well, but I've come to love you simply by virtue of Griselda loving you so dearly. And when it happens, if there's anything you want on this end of things, and you don't want to worry her, you give me a list, and I'll make sure it works out. Okay?
I will keep that in mind.
All right.
Is there anything else I should know to make sure that, I guess, she gets back to you?
Oh, well, oh, she's feisty. She'll come out.
She fought off half a dozen gods over my corpse last night. So dream corpse, you know the drill. So I expect that's true.
Yes. I'd say if you have the opportunity, just make sure she gets a goodbye. And it wouldn't hurt you to tell her how much she means to you. She doesn't hear it enough.
No, I'm certain there are plenty of people who don't hear it enough.
Yes. Well. You need to get out to enjoying what little life you have left, and maybe I do too.
I try and I square my shoulders. I'm like, let's make it a good one, huh?
Absolutely. And he stands up and he gives your hand one more squeeze, and he says, "I'm proud of you, because it seems whatever life you've lived has led you to a fate that'll help other people, even if it hurts you."
Can't say I don't wish. I mean, some cowards seem to get all the good things right now.
Oh, it's true. I've spent a life reading books, and that's probably how I'll die. But
I would almost wish I had stayed at the temple, but I could not eat another. And I point at the bucket of. I could not eat another mouthful of that if my life did depend on it. And what do you know? It doesn't have to.
Well, that's good. I'm glad you brought that up. And he digs through his bag for a moment and pulls out what appears to be some hard cheese and a few crackers and goes, "Here, I've got these. I've been holding on to them for a special occasion." And he hands it to you and goes, "It's good cheese. It's good cheese. It should be perfectly fine to eat." And he
I have some bottles in the cellar. I'm sure it'll pair well with.
He grins at you, pushes open the door, and disappears back into the throng of people his own size.
Go
for it.
Oh, I just say I just head over to maybe just a wall or a table or something, and I'm just I put the cheese down, cheese and crackers down, and just sort of put my hands on the table, and it's just take a very deep breath, and then square my shoulders. I'm try and imitate basically what Lili did, where I'm just I am the picture of host, and head out the kitchen.
Gris, you have started to kind of round with the other halflings. Most of them mainly seem emotionally shaken. A few sort of shoo you away. A couple of children stop and kind of like paw with curiosity through the various treatments you have, and you, being Gris, undoubtedly tolerate that and answer whatever questions they pepper you with. You finally reach someone who sort of does maybe need your help. A young halfling woman, probably 22, 23, who is very obviously pregnant. She's seated at one of the tables and is sort of picking at one of these bowls of gruel. She's watching Lione speak to what appears to be a wood elf woman.
Gris kind of walks over to her and immediately kind of, I'm assuming she's at one of the tables, right?
Yes.
And immediately kind of sits down next to her and sort of shoves away her bowl and says, and like leans her elbows in and looks at her and says, "You're expecting."
Hello, grandmother. Yes. Yes.
Gris is like, "How wonderful. I'm Gris Littlefoot. And you should not be eating that, by the way. I will get you something better." And Gris immediately kind of like digs into her bag and pulls out like what looks like a little satchel of tea leaves, and she's like, "First of all, herbal remedies. Make sure you are healthy. Baby is healthy. I'll try to find you some hot water. And then secondly," and Gris kind of like scans the room and kind of like looks over Lione for a second, lingers, and then kind of looks over, and she's like, "I'll find you something better than." Gris is like very like viscerally disgusted by the porridge / gruel situation. And then she's like, "But how are you?" And like her face kind of gets serious. Like she goes from happy-go-lucky Gris to, "We're in a war. I know there's a lot going on. How are you feeling emotionally?"
Grandmother, I appreciate your concern. I am all right. My husband left to help with the war effort, and I haven't heard from him in some time, but I'm okay. I am safe. The baby is likely safe, and the food, it's really not too bad, grandmother. I appreciate your concern. The herbs, though, I do appreciate. We had a cleric in our village who was helping me, but I haven't seen her around. So, what is your name, grandmother?
Nods, and she's like, "Gris Littlefoot. And yours. I didn't even ask your name. I apologize."
It is of no trouble, grandmother. My name is Fiona Elderberry.
Oh, a wonderful name, my dear. A wonderful name.
Thank you, grandmother.
And Gris is just like, "You said you think your baby is okay. Would you like me to check?"
Oh, yes, you are welcome to, yes.
Gris is gonna kind of just like reach out and like touch kind of the top of her belly and kind of close her eyes. And can I just do a medicine check on this woman to see how her baby is?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, perfect. Oh my god, my rolls today. 4 + 8, 12.
4 plus, okay, 12. On a 12. From what you can tell, the baby's perfectly healthy. However, you think you've noticed something that this woman has not noticed.
Okay.
This isn't baby singular.
Oh,
this
no.
is baby triple. This is probably triplets from what you can tell. Other than that, like, they don't appear particularly stressed, despite probably what was a long night of walking. You do think that the woman maybe needs a little bit more than what's been going on in terms of nutrition, but other than that, she seems perfectly healthy.
Gris kind of slowly opens her eyes and she's like, kind of pulls away from her and like looks at her and kind of just smiles, and she says, "Do you have anyone with you, by chance?"
With me? No, I came alone. My mother lives far away. Very, very far away. I was hoping to go meet her in her village, but with the blockade, I don't think I'll be able to get that far north.
Oh, north? Well, what village is your mother in?
Oh, it's very small. She's in a strange religious group.
Well, I'm just throwing this out there, and this might be Chris. Is she from Dreamer's Grove?
Yes, are you familiar?
Yeah, I'm also from Dreamer's Grove. And so is my husband. You shouldn't be my husband. And Gris kind of looks around and she's like, never mind, focus. First of all, your babies are doing wonderfully. You do need to eat something besides porridge, for the record. But they are healthy.
More than
You
one?
are healthy. Yes. It seems you have been blessed with 3 young sprouts.
Oh, okay.
But do not fear.
Good.
Do not fear. Breathe in. Breathe out. Yes, maybe one more time. In. Out. You are surrounded by your halfling family. And I'm from Dreamer's Grove. My husband, who is here, is from Dreamer's Grove, and we will help you find your family. And until then, we are your family. And Gris kind of immediately, just stands up, and she goes, Reese! Littlefoot! Just, shouts his name out into, the inn, looking for him.
A curly head, pops up from what appears to be a game of dice being played in the middle of the floor. And Reese looks at you and goes, what is it, dear? As you yell, the entire tavern kind of looks about, allowing all 3 of you to kind of take restock of the situation. You can move around as you want if you want to talk to different people. I'll allow you all to kind of redetermine where you are.
I want Lione to finish her conversation with that wood elf because she just asked a question, and I want Lione to finish that conversation.
All right, Ariadne, you've just exited the kitchen. Would you want to roll a perception check? Are you looking for anyone in particular?
Just for Lili, I think.
Okay.
15 plus 9, 24.
All right, on a 24, you can see Lili. She is seated at a table. She is surrounded by wood elves, but she is in particular watching Lione. She's doing a very good job of disguising the fact that she is watching Lione's conversation with what appears to be another wood elf. But she, well in conversation with the people around her, continues to look up in Lione's direction, trying to seem casual, but you know her too well to know, to think otherwise. That, you know that she is really looking at Lione and whatever's going on with her.
Okay. And can I see obviously if I can follow her gaze. What do I see if I'm looking at Lione?
Lione is standing with her back to a group of soldiers of the king's army. She is in conversation with a woman you recognize as a wood elf ranger. They are known for being scouts for hire. They will work with humans, although when they are not being employed by the humans, they do run patrols through the forest, sort of in an effort not to police who comes through it, but rather to make sure that wood elf settlements go undisturbed.
I make my way. I look between them both, and I will make my way over to Lili.
All right, Lione, you were just asked a question.
Lione looks at the wood elf and says, I know of a few songs from the Sea of Trees. I know of the Song of the Dreamer at the End of the World and the Lizard Who Swallowed the Sun. Why?
She narrows her eyes at you and she goes, you are of a kind who learn these songs too late, I think.
What did you see in the cabin? How did you know I was there?
It is our business to know who approaches our woods.
But what did you see?
I didn't see anything.
What did you feel?
Roll a persuasion check.
Okay. I'm good at that. Oh, delicious. 26.
Last night, outside of the cabin, I could hear the ancestors singing. Trees. I think they sang for you.
Did they say?
There is no sun in the sky today, have you noticed?
I did notice.
I will not run the mail for you.
Understood.
And she takes several steps back and turns back towards the table of wood elves. Ari, you sit down at the table next to Ari to Lili, who sort of slides down the bench and makes room for you and goes, "Who are you speaking to? The halfling man."
That was Gris. Gris's husband. I hadn't actually met him before.
I thought, well, I mean, you met him briefly, right?
I suppose, but it was a combat type situation. It was not exactly a meet and greet.
Oh. Well, what did he say?
He was just telling me a little bit more about the dream world and trying to explain things to me, and basically telling me how much he loves Gris and to protect her, much like you asked of Gris.
Oh, well, that's nice, right?
Very.
Very kind of him. Did you ask him anything about Gris said your dream form had changed? Did you ask him about that, or what it meant, or
it had
what my dream meant, or anything?
No, I didn't. He knew that it had changed, and he said that there were answers that could only be found there, which I guess makes sense. But so far, it's all I expect as confusing to him as it is to me, to you, to Gris.
And he didn't have any thoughts on the fact that we've all had the same dream? Did he say it meant anything?
He said that they are all related to fate, which is more or less what we knew, and that the big question, I suppose, is how immutable that fate might be, but...
Did you think you changed it at all? Did he say anything about...
No, he didn't say we changed it, at least not yet, but I suppose that's what the mission is, right? But I get the sense that he wants us all to succeed.
And did he say he knows what cost that success will come?
Not necessarily, though I suspect he may know a bit more.
So he thinks...
Yeah.
He thinks you can still change your fate, then? Like, you'll come home to me? He said it's possible?
I squeeze her hand and I look at her. And I go, my love, if home is where the heart is, my place is by your side, now and for always.
Okay.
I squeeze her and I'm like, what about you? Don't think I haven't noticed you're not so subtle to me. Glances over in that direction.
I don't I don't like her knowing more than I do about what's happening at my inn. And I don't trust her to not make decisions that benefit herself and harm everyone staying here. Ariadne, I respect that you all are trying to do something, but I'm worried that she will convince them to open the blockade or something that will put everyone else here at risk.
Well, then I should go find out and try, as always, to talk her out of it. Which, I mean, she did compromise last night, so, maybe we're pushing her back onto the right track.
I hope you don't believe that too strongly.
Unfortunately not.
Sorry, Arya.
But hey, and I lean in real close to her ear, and I'm like, it's hard to explain, but I am technically like 4 gods now, so one of them has got to get through to her, right?
4 gods?
Yeah, she had 12. We did not want her to have 12. So I have 4. Gris is 4. Just go.
Well,
However,
Ariadne,
there was a level playing field.
you should have led with that. A lot of women are attracted to power, right?
I probably go red, and I'm like, well, it crowded, and it's not exact. It's just happened. We were the guests.
The wood elf next to you looks at you and goes, we speak sibling. I'm sorry, we speak Sylvan, right, sibling?
I just look at them, and I go, well, yes, I expect as much.
All right, well, okay. And he, kind of goes back to the food that he's eating and blatantly trying to ignore your conversation with Lili.
Mm-hmm. I mean, as far as how much did he hear? Because I got louder because I got flustered, but otherwise, like I said, I was in her ear.
He probably just heard you getting flustered and assumed sort of context.
As he looks back down, I'm like, in Sylvan, I'm like, please do forgive me. She's the expert, and I am very tired.
He nods into his porridge. You see Lione sort of finish a conversation, and it seems a little bit tense between her and the elf that she is speaking to.
Okay. I give Lily's hand another squeeze, and I'm like, once more. And I look at Lione, and I'm like, wish me luck.
She gives you a squeeze, and as you stand up and begin to move towards Lione, the elf that Lione was speaking to turns towards you and makes eye contact with you and sort of looks over to the side as if to ask you to speak to her very briefly.
New friend? And I follow her, I suppose.
She pulls you to the side, just out of earshot of Lione, and goes, "Your friend."
Yes.
Last night, did you hear them?
We didn't hear them, but apparently you... so you're not... Did she tell you what happened?
She told me nothing, and I would not believe what she told me.
Now that's wise. We were in the dream world. What is it you heard?
Last night, in the trees. The song. The trees were singing us the song of...
The
lizard
is it
who...
by chance, the lizard who swallowed the sun?
So you heard it?
Yeah, we know it. We're familiar. We're on well-researched terms.
Well, I would assume you heard it, but you didn't hear it last night?
Not not literally.
Late last night before the lights in your home went on, just before, it was very quiet, and then there was singing. And you could feel the sun vanish. As if it had been swallowed in that very moment, and the trees, they sang. And when she entered today, you could hear them singing again.
I just shoot Lione like a quick glance and then back. And
Lione has turned back towards Leo at this point.
And I'm like, well, I suppose that's not too much of a coincidence, but yes, I did not hear them, but I do have an idea of what happened. I glance back over at Lione.
And you know that children of the forest who leave for too long, sibling, they live to see horrible fates, yes?
Yes, so it would seem, or so my dreams would have me believe. But you know what? We're doing our very best to avoid that.
Well, that is odd, because you seem to be travel companions with your own. You realize you are traveling with...
I just hold up a hand and sort of lower my voice even more, and I'm like, I've got 2 weeks, and there's not much I can do about it. Do you have something to tell me?
I simply would remind you that it is what betrayal sows and reaps that is the threat, not betrayal itself.
Well, that's not ominous at all.
Sibling, I'm simply telling you that the fruit of betrayal travels with you and sleeps in the same home as you.
Yes. Oh, I take it like father, like daughter.
Yes, the resemblance is, well, it's right there. May the spirits in the trees guide your path, and may they sing your song after your fall.
I hope it's a good one. And I just echo what I said to Reese, basically. And I'm just like, make sure it has a catchy melody or something.
Of course. And when you join the trees, I hope that the songs you sing are brighter.
I look back at Lili and then back at this woman, and I just go, I think there's only one song I'll be singing.
The song of the heart is true. And she looks at you for a little bit longer and says, may Sylvanas return to light your way. And steps away and sort of sits down and begins to engage Lili in what appears to be a much less serious conversation, leaving you sort of looking at Lione, who's talking to Leo.
All Lione says to Leo... Oh, no, you go.
I was just going to say, I look worryingly over at the woman, and I don't think there's even anything I could do to catch her attention. But does she maybe see me or something?
She does look back over at you.
Okay, I just hold up a quick and point at Lili.
You hear her voice in your head, the way that Lione often speaks to you, and she says,
never get used to that.
Sibling, your fate is yours to disclose, and not all speak with the trees as I do.
I just give her a little thanks.
She gives you a sad, grim smile, and then returns to Lili with a much larger smile and appears, you can hear like the tail end of a joke about owls.
Mm-hmm. I just like shake myself off, and before turning over to Lione to like go back that way, I just say, if everybody could just stop, it's depressing enough. And then just like shake myself, and I'm like, okay, back on Lione.
So Lione, as Ari approaches, what are you saying to Leo?
Yeah, so all she says is, thank you so much for all of the information you gave. I'm gonna pass it along to the tavern owner. I'm sure you'll hear from her soon. Leo, if there is anything you can do about getting a letter out to Alis, or perhaps letting some people through the blockade, I'm not saying that you can. I'm just saying that if there is any opportunity at any point, I'm in the cabin just behind the inn. Please come and talk to me for anything. I want to help, especially soldiers who know Marius. I want to help you. I'd like you to be able to come to the wedding. I don't think you can. It was a joke.
Well, I'd like to come to the wedding myself. Real quickly,
Yeah.
Jacobs is like looking at both of you like, I have letters. I have
Perfect.
a couple of letters. And he like holds up a small stack of letters in your direction.
Leone pulls out 5 gold, which is a lot, but she doesn't care at this point. Never. And she takes the letters and puts 5 gold in his hand and says, thank you. I know you said it was a wedding gift, but...
You pay Jacobs, and Jacobs goes to pocket the gold, and Leo looks at him and goes, you are to give that to the lady of the inn. She hasn't charged us for the rooms, and this is an expensive endeavor.
She should be charging you all.
We offered her a small sum, and she made it very clear that helping people should always be free. And then she,
right.
I think, swore at me in Elvish.
That also sounds about right.
That sounds like her. I pipe up from behind Leo.
I need to talk to you. Again,
Yeah,
thank you, Leo.
as do I.
Please let me know if there's any way that you can get us the hell out of here before the blockade comes down, or just keep me in the loop. Even if you just have... I'll be in and out, probably. So we'll talk.
Leo nods at you and sort of begins to move away from you, presumably to go check on the various refugees.
Lione turns and looks at Ari and says, outside? Or do you want me to grab Lili? Or do you want to just talk us?
No, let's just up to you. Kitchen or outside. But outside seems pretty grim.
Gris, you are sort of finishing up your conversation with Fiona. And you see Ari and Lione moving towards the kitchen.
So before we stopped, I had like called Reese, and I presumably beckoned him over.
Yes.
And so Gris kind of sees the two of them headed to the kitchen from the side of her eye, and she's like, oh. She kind of like looks at them and then looks back at Reese, and she's like, okay, I have other things to attend to. But Reese, Fiona, I was so excited about some new saplings, and 3 saplings. Remind me what your last name was again. I'm so forgetful. I'm so sorry.
Elderberry.
Oh God, it's so good. It's better to hear it the second time, honestly. And she kind of like nods and just kind of like gazes off in no particular way for a second, like almost like she's thinking something else. And then she's like, Reese, Fiona Elderberry is with child. She's going to be having 3 babies, and her mother is from the Grove.
Oh, you said Fiona Elderberry. Yes, her mother must be Miriam Elderberry. She's a little bit older than us. No, probably about the same age. Very accomplished dreamer. She's got an incredible collection of books. You have to see it sometime. Chickadee. It is amazing. She won't lend them out. You have to like read them in her home, which is quite annoying. Your mother is quite hard-headed. Yes, she is. Anyways, yes, I am familiar. Yes, she's very smart. A little annoying. A little full of herself. But for a good reason. What What were you telling me, Chickadee?
Sorry. Gris just kind of chuckles, like she's so excited to just like see her husband again and like to see him in his element, like those little things that you forget about. She's just like, oh my goodness. And she's like, okay. Well, Fiona's traveling alone, so Fiona is our family now. So I was wondering if you could keep her company, make sure she gets something better to eat than, no offense to Lili. Lili makes some incredible mushroom soup. Something better than this gruel. And Gris is like, I also gave her some tea, which, by the way, I have some tea for you. And Gris digs around and pulls out another satchel of tea. But this one is the one from the halfling with the tabloid. It's the tea that, like, makes you go fast. And she's like, and this is for you. It's just going to give you a little boost, and then maybe you can help some more people out, okay? And she's like, she, like, leans over and, like, gives him a peck on the cheek. And she's like, I have to go check on things, but I need to talk to you later, okay?
He gives you like a big thumbs up and a grin, and then proceeds to start digging through his bag and pulls out like some dried mushrooms and looks at them with confusion, and as you go to leave, slides them across the table as if like, these are not mine, and then goes back through digging through his satchel.
Who knows how long it has been?
Oh, absolutely.
So then Gris just kind of like looks over her shoulder and just kind of grins one more time before sneakily, I think she's gonna kind of sneak to try and listen in to Ari and Leone's conversation. I don't think she's gonna actually be like, hey, I'm here. I think she's just kind of like, what are those two up to?
All right, I'm gonna need you to do a stealth check. We're gonna give you describe to me how you're sneaking. Like where are you going? What are you doing?
Yeah.
And then I'll determine.
Like one kitchen door.
Yeah,
know,
like
but there's a ton of people in this inn.
Kitchen.
No.
You're
But
gonna walk in. No one's in the kitchen.
No.
From what I'm imagining, I'm imagining she's gonna wait until you open the door and slide in behind you, which is why I'm.
Yes. So the plan is, so Gris is kind of by, where Fiona and Rhys are, but she's going to take like the long way around, like, I'm doing that, I'm doing this, I'm watching you, I'm doing my thing. And then she's going to, like, once they go in, kind of sneak around, because the kitchen door is kind of behind the bar, right? So she's going to kind of sneak around and slowly, she may not go all the way into the kitchen. She may just, like, kind of open the door or just put her ear up against it to listen.
Okay, if you want to put your ear up against the door, I'm not going to have you roll a stealth check. I'm going to have you roll a perception check with disadvantage.
Okay.
Opposed to, we're going to have an opposed check versus, we're going to say Leone's passive perception. Lione, what's your passive perception? It'll be on the left side of your page.
11.
Oh,
all right. So we're going to call it a DC 11.
Okay. You said with disadvantage, right?
Yes. And the reasoning behind
this... 20
this...
plus 3, 23. Please let this second roll be good.
The reasoning behind this is Ariadne would care considerably less, I'm assuming, about the conversation being overheard than Lione would.
So my lower of the two is 20.
All right. Lione and Ari, you enter the kitchen. It's very much the same as you and Rhys left it. You hear a little giggle and a halfling child kind of sprints out the back door towards the garden from within the pantry. Squealing something in halfling that neither of you understand. Gris, you do hear what appears to be a child's voice yell, I was just looking for potatoes!
Oh my god.
Gris is just like nodding in agreement. She's like, I know, potatoes sound so good.
Lione looks at Ari and says, so I got some information from his name is Commander Red Lion. He actually knows Marius, which is good because it meant he was willing to talk to me. He was invited to my wedding. Right?
I guess. Yeah, I suppose. I don't remember his name. Maybe I should have put his name on the stag party list, but
I don't know if he's going to... I mean, if he gets there, he seems like a really fun fellow. His name's
Yeah,
Leo
I don't
Redlion.
think I love berries, but I don't think stag party is our greatest priority in this exact moment.
Yes, and I don't necessarily know if this fellow is going to be able to leave the front, but if he can, definitely invite him to the stag. After I didn't have to sort through letters, he had one of his staff do that, which is great. Anyways, okay, so we're fucked.
Yeah, I'm presuming the blockade.
Yes. So there's no letters going out. There is just what we got to come in, and I'm gonna look through these after we're done talking. I'll probably take them to the cabin.
Fair enough. Well, I mean, if it's to protect
he said
the rest,
like 7
then
days.
by all means.
I get it,
Okay.
but also I don't really want to be stuck here for 7 days, which I understand we may very well be stuck here for 7 days, but I don't really want to be. We've got some other issues at hand.
Well, yes, you're not wrong, but I'm also not. I'm not the greatest tactician, but perhaps compromising the blockade is not the greatest idea.
I understand. No, I know. Basically, what I said to Leo was, if there's a safe way that you can get us out and towards Alis, that's great. Let me know. But I'm not like bribing him to get us out of the blockade. I mean, I could. Do you want me to do that?
No.
I can do that.
No, that's really not.
I'm just making sure.
We're not there
I'm
yet.
capable.
Nope.
You let me know when, okay? No. I think if we get past the 7-day mark, I'm going to get a bit antsy, but we'll play it by ear until then.
Fair enough.
I'm concerned. The Aquarians. The Aquarians are the one doing this.
Why?
Their cannons are somehow reaching here.
I didn't.
They have help from a very powerful wizard. They're using some sort of arcane magic, and I think it's my father. So I need to talk to Bertram somehow. Because I think Bertram would be able to tell me if it's my father or not. How else would the Aquarians have this ability?
But you're not wrong. And there's no, and I can't believe I'm saying this.
I mean,
there's no way you can tell.
I mean, I could try. I can try to talk to him. He does,
Yeah, no, I'm very well aware. I don't think we're there yet, but...
I mean, I'll likely try to speak to him regardless.
Fair enough. I just don't...
I know.
You do what you think is gonna work. Let's presume that it's him. Considering our time frames and the amount...
There's one other thing.
That is happening right now.
I think the sun is gone.
Yeah. I looked at... Yes, we were outside. You did that. Can you undo it?
I haven't been able to undo the moon situation yet, Ari.
There's...
Again,
I had to ask.
On.
You need to understand. I had to ask.
I get it. This is the thing. If we could get out, then I could go to Valdithas and find out if there's a book that I can read to figure out. But the blockade.
Yes. What exactly do you think you would be able to figure out?
I don't know. Anything, any sort of knowledge. All of these things exist in lore. Everything that we have read has been true.
That's what worries me.
At this point, can Gris just swing open the door?
Yes, absolutely.
So Gris just kind of stumbles in.
There?
Enough! Okay, listen, the blockade, I had an idea.
Okay.
Oh, it's a weird idea, but it's an idea. So, people can't go from here to Alis.
Right.
But let's say 2 people who can turn into animals could go from here to Alis and go to Valdithas and find the information that we may need.
Valdithas is not in Alis. He's in Kraelyn.
Oh, sorry, Kraelyn. Well, we can do that too. I mean, it's just a little bit further.
What do you mean 2 people? Are you going to turn one of us into a bird?
No, Reese is here.
What?
Oh, yeah.
Excuse me. Why is Reese here? I thought he was in the Grove.
He was in the Grove, and then he went to go help some family members out.
You
and
have
then
family
somehow,
outside of the Grove?
yeah, evidently I really couldn't remember that I did.
I need
but
to speak to Reese.
you don't need to speak to. Well, I mean, you can't speak to Reese.
Are you saying I can't speak to Reese?
No, you can speak to Reese.
You
I'm
two
just saying.
visited me like a month ago.
No, I know. He's here. He'd probably love to see you. But he's also taking care of a young halfling woman who is pregnant with triplets. So exciting! And yeah, she's apparently her mother's from our village, so he's keeping her company. But you can go talk to Reese.
World.
But I think we should do that. I think because then I'm not alone, so you don't have.
Idea.
No, how
In
is
the
it
middle
terrible?
of a war?
I offered Reese.
No,
That's two people we can protect each other. How are they going to know? We turned into brown bears.
That's
just
not
kind
what I'm
of.
concerned about. I'm concerned about the fact that the Aquarians have magical cannons that are destroying things much further away than they should.
Well, I mean, they're not aiming for forest creatures.
No, they're aiming for the entire forest.
I mean, if anything happens, I can
How
heal
long were you
myself.
standing at the door? Do I need to recap you?
No, I was there the whole time.
Okay.
I just look at Gris like, why don't you just come in?
I thought you guys might say something juicy and exciting, and I just wanted to be part of it. Okay.
Gris, we literally did a blood pact last night.
Well, you didn't really want to.
Did I do it? You don't get to hold anything over my head. I did it.
No, you did it.
I bled gold on that candle. Anyways.
Oh yeah, it was cold. Okay, so other than the blockade thing, and we can talk about that later, or maybe I'll just go anyways.
Gris.
I'm a free woman, and my husband's here. Maybe we need a
It's
little
funny
vacation.
you're a free woman when it's you, but you're threatening to knock me out last night.
Yes, and I had another idea. I was thinking about all of our dreams, and I kind of wanted to run this past Reese. Sorry, I just am all over the place. There's so many people here, and it's just a buzz, and it's got me all excited.
I kneel down, and I take Gris by the shoulders. I'm just like, I need you to slow down, like 10 times.
Gris kind of does the
just.
Great point, Ari.
That she did with Fiona earlier, and she's like, okay, so I was thinking about our dreams, and I'm kind of wondering, like, you know what we do with what Marius does when he turned into a werewolf, where he kind of like was locked down below, and there were chains, and like he just kind of chilled there.
Are you about to propose to lock me up?
Well, not just you, Ari too.
I'm
and separately.
Getting married in 2 weeks.
I understand that, but
no.
I don't really want Ari to die, and I also don't really want you to die. And if you both make it past the 2-week mark,
Gris,
you can get married.
Do you want to die? Because my mother will kill you if I'm not at the wedding. No, you don't understand. Listen, I think you know Luciana LaBelle. You do not know Luciana LaBelle. She's been very nice. Your guest, right? She, a wrath, an absolute wrath. I'm the way I am because of my mother, okay? Do you want to die? She'll kill you.
I just like hold a hand up to Lione, utterly tired of her voice at this point. And I just turn to Gris and I just like soften and I just go, I don't think that fate would leave us alone just because we're chained up. And I know that Reese knows it too.
He thinks he knows things. That doesn't mean he does know things. You know what I'm saying? He just reads a lot. You know how when you read a lot and you're like, yeah, I know things. Well, he doesn't really know things. He knows a little bit of things. What?
I think he knows more than you give him credit for.
Oh, I'm sure he does. But I'm just saying, I would rather take my chances with locking you up in separate rooms and you staying alive and me dying, whether it be from Luciana or from your father. Then
none of us are going to die, so why don't we just figure out a way to get you home to Reese?
Gris kind of just squints at Ari for a second. Why is this coming from you? This is weird.
Because I'm tired of how much we've talked about any one of us dying in the last like 48 hours.
Fine,
I really just don't want to hear another word about it.
Okay. So then what's the plan?
Well, I have a bunch of letters. I was going to take them to the cabin. I spoke to Commander Red Lion. I'm going to touch base with him as much as we can. I have a few things I'd like to do internally. I'm going to try and get a hold of... Don't know if I'll be able to get a hold of Bertram, but I'm going to try. And I'm going to try and get a hold of my
Where's
father.
the cat? Need it?
Pardon?
Where's the cat bell when you need it?
Honestly. But Lione still has that rune stone, right?
The stone that would bring...
Bertram to me.
No, that was a stone that
No.
Galen had.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But didn't he have one too? Wasn't
No.
the stone...
So he
Like, I swear
Bertram
Bertram
gave
had
you
one.
a stone, and then he gave the other stone to Galen.
Yeah, so Galen
So he could
Could-
get back.
teleport himself to you, or you could
Oh.
teleport yourself to Galen, who's
Right.
literally under the ocean, so that's
Right.
maybe
That
a
ain't
bad
gonna
idea.
happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Well, I'll investigate that a little bit later. Lione looks to Gris and says, in an ideal situation, we won't be stuck here for the entirety of the blockade. I'm gonna work on the guards. They're our best shot of getting out of here safely.
Well, okay. I have some questions for Reese that I still want to ask him.
I also would
And-
like to speak to Reese.
And there's some other people that I just need to check. I want to check in on. I haven't made it my rounds to everybody yet. Make sure everyone's okay. But I also had another question. So now that we all have 4 gods,
Mm-hmm.
should we like train?
What do you mean?
Well, I mean, aren't we gonna like fight your dad?
Honestly,
We
I
should
think
at least
we're as
maybe try to
prepared as-
find out who they are. Maybe,
think
I
that's a
mean,
good
you
bet.
know who yours are,
I know who
so
3
you've
of
got a
mine
head
are.
start.
I don't know who the
Um,
4th is.
Well, and Gris looks down at her clothes and she's like, "We keep fighting fights, and I'm just wearing like, you know, very basic fabrics."
I mean, I'm sure we could get you some armor in Alis, but we need to get to Alis first. We don't have the materials here, and any materials that are here should be going to the refugees and to the soldiers. But when we get to
There's-
Alis...
There's a knock at the kitchen door.
Oh, Gris kind of like shuts her mouth quickly and like looks at the door, and it says, "Yes."
Come in. Why am I saying that?
The door opens, and Lili and Leli, the wood elf, stand in the doorway. Lili looks surprised and goes, "Oh, I thought I heard voices. Leli has offered to help with the foraging. I thought maybe Miss Littlefoot or Ariadne would want to help us."
I love foraging. And who is this? Who is Lily? I'm Gris, by the way.
Lily looks at you and says in common, "I am Lily. I am here with the scout group.
You're the one who helped lead the refugees here.
Yes.
Oh.
Yes.
Well, thank
Well,
you.
I
thank you.
spoke with your friend Ariadne earlier,
Hopefully,
and your friend Lione.
Well, it seems like it's time for us to speak then, huh?
Yes, Lily said you are adept at foraging. I thought perhaps you could help us supplement some of the food for the refugees.
Absolutely. We need to gather some mushrooms and some herbs, and I'm kind of running low on stocks on, teas and just natural remedies for aches and pains, and honestly, some folks might just need something to lift their moods a little bit. So, we should definitely find some things.
That sounds wonderful. Lily looks at you, Arya, and says, "You're welcome to join us." And she and Lily begin to head for the door.
Lione goes, "Quickly before you go, Lily.
Yes, Leon?
I got information from Commander Red Lion.
Yes?
The blockade, he said it'll be a week. Maybe a week and a half. And
Thank you.
I fear that everybody who's here will be stuck here until then.
Well, I appreciate you getting that information, Lione. And she, like, looks at you for a moment, and there is nothing friendly about her expression, even though she's
Lione
smiling.
can tell.
And she goes, I'll be foraging out back if you need.
Certainly.
I go and I take her hand, and I'm just like, happy hunting. I'll see you soon.
Yes, of course, Ari. I'll talk to you later.
Once
And
they
I give
leave-
her a kiss on the cheek, and I send her on her way.
She does a little blush.
I'll join you guys in a minute, okay? I'll come find you.
Yes, absolutely.
Once they leave, Lione looks to Ari and says, she could at least pretend to tolerate me at this point.
She has better things to spend her energy on today.
Mm,
And to
no,
be
that
fair,
was rude. No, there's no to be fair. She could be polite
no,
at the
there's
very
a to be
least.
fair, Lione.
I don't
because
think so, Gris, and
you
I
know-
don't want to hear it, quite frankly. So, as we were saying, I'm going to try and contact my father. And I'm going to try and contact Bertram. And there are letters. I'm going to take them to the cabin. And I think there's probably some for both of you. I'll check. I'll leave them on the table.
I'll go with you.
Okay.
I'd like to look something up anyways.
Perfect.
Well,
And Lione heads towards the cabin.
Gris
All
just-
right.
Sorry, yeah.
Go for it, Ari.
I was just gonna say I'll turn to Gris and I'll just like give her a smile and I'll say, make sure you find a treat for Twig.
Oh,
Yes,
yeah.
will you please check in on him? I left him in there this morning because, well, I didn't know what to expect coming in here.
Mhm.
She's like, actually, if you think about it, could you send him this way? I'd love to introduce him to Reese.
My God.
Oh, okay.
Wonderful. Okay, wonderful. Also, yikes. By the way, well, hey,
I
Gris
just give
comes
her
in.
like a quick nod and says, yeah.
And she's like, okay, well, I'll come find you later. I still want to talk to Reese and maybe do some foraging. It might clear my head. And she just kind of like looks sadly at Ari and just kind of like shoots a little wave as they leave.
I give Gris just a big smile and I wave back.
All right, so we're going to start with Lione and Ari. You enter the cabin. Twig is seated on the table, and there is a large hairball immediately adjacent to him that he appears to have coughed up.
Lione shoos Twig off the table and kind of like lays out the letters.
Twig kind of hops off the table and screeches at you indignantly.
I'm gonna grab
I feel the same way.
some pillows and a blanket off the back of an armchair and sort of lay it down near a window for him, like a little like nest.
Twig drags the blanket sort of into a little circle and arranges it very nicely and falls asleep on the pillow.
Okay.
Oh, I mean, if you pet him, he absolutely gives you a little bird kiss.
Nice. I was gonna say I pet him and I also go, you're welcome to get comfy, but your mom would like to see you and introduce you to your dad. And I just like
He like aggressively flaps his wings, which at this point you've noticed have grown very large. By this point, he still looks like a baby vulture, but is easily the size of a regular adult vulture.
oof.
He then like flaps his way over the door and like
I open it
continually
for him.
bumps against it until you
Yeah.
open the door. He circles around the house and flies sort of in the direction of the forest, presumably where Gris is foraging with Lili and Lili. Lione, you spread the letters out on the table.
As they're having that conversation, I feel like Lione is kind of sorting them into 3 piles, one for her, one for Ari, and one for Gris.
All right, there is a single letter for Ari.
Mhm.
3 letters for you.
Mm-hmm.
And a letter for Gris.
Okay.
Would you like to read the letters for you?
Yes.
The first is from Valdethus.
Okay.
Lione, I'm sure you will be looking for answers. Trust me when I say there are none here. I've always known. I'm sorry. But I hoped for better from you. It is hard to believe one can be disappointed with the fate they've known the whole time, and yet I am. Sincerely, Veldethus.
Lione
next-
slips that into her bag immediately.
The next is from Bertram.
Okay.
Although the return address is in your mother's name.
Right.
Lione. I hope you are well. Your mother is concerned for you. I, too, am concerned for you. There's a rumor of a war to the south, and we haven't heard from you in some time. Your betrothed, I'm sure, is writing you now, as we've received some unfortunate news. It seems he cannot catch a break, as they say. Woe is those cursed to live interesting lives. We are expecting you to return shortly. Your mother is very preoccupied with all sorts of wedding planning. I believe she sent along a package for your friend Gris. I have attached my own package for you. It only has one use, so use it wisely. And it's a little unclear for you how to use it. Simply unfold it and spread it somewhere with a good amount of area. I'll know when you've activated it. I'm thinking of you, and regardless of the decisions you make, I am proud of you. Much love, Bertram.
What's the package?
There is attached to it like a thicker envelope, and you can tell that there's a piece of parchment that has to be very large that has been folded dozens of times within it.
Okay. I'm gonna open the third letter, and then I'll open that one.
You open the third letter. It is from Marius. Dear Lione, I miss you. I think about you a lot. I wish we'd gotten more time after everything to just be together without any of the pressure of me dying or your father or anything of the like. I am looking forward to our wedding, exceptionally more so as I've received a summons from the king. They are planning on launching a naval effort.
Oh my fucking god.
In the
I'm
next...
gonna lose my fucking mind, bestie! No, bitch! No!
Leon's like, no.
They are planning to launch a naval effort within the next few weeks. I have been asked to return from retirement. I feel it's my duty to do so, and I hope you can understand why I would think that.
Oh my god.
I have asked that they await my marriage to be completed before this, and have asked for an extra week before my report date so that we can finally get some time together. I know you're probably angry, because you are fiery in more ways than one. But as someone with a very clear sense of purpose, I hope you can understand and love the fact that I have my own as well. All of my love. And not any less. Marius.
Or against? It's the Aquarians, right?
It's a little unclear whose side Alis is on. Right now they are aiding in the refugee assistance for the halflings, so it seems that they are sort of more strongly allied with the halflings, especially since there is an emperor of some kind that you've heard of in Aquera, who it seems the king does not believe has any real power. Or real claim to power.
Mm-hmm. I'm just figuring out whose naval fleet I need to fucking burn down.
Yes. From what you understand, it would be against the Aquaran Emperor.
That's what I thought. Yeah. the ones that my dear old dad's working with, allegedly.
Ari, as Lione is reading her letters, you approach the table and see that there's one addressed to you.
Lovely. As she's reading them, I go over like to the sink or to a basin, and I just like wash my face, and I like methodically like take the wraps off my hands. It's like probably more slowly than maybe Lione has ever seen me. And then I head over to the table, and I go ahead and I sit down, like sink into the chair and open it.
This is a letter from Travis.
Okay.
It's written in very clear handwriting, very clean, very precise. So it may be from Travis, but someone else did the writing for him. Dear Ari, I got your letter about the stag party. I'm unfamiliar with the human tradition associated with it, but the kid says that they're supposed to be quite a good time. I'd be more than happy to have the ass reserved for this event at no extra charge, presuming I'm invited, which the kid said, obviously I am. I'm a little confused as to how the invitation process works, but we will be awaiting for you. It sounds like it's supposed to be the day before the wedding, and so that's what we've arranged for. I'll also be at the wedding. I don't know what an RSVP is, so if you could just tell Lione I'll be there. I'm coming as Maxilla's +1. I don't know how that works out with me also receiving an invitation. Human weddings are weird. Do I bring anything? Do they need anything? Anyways, I hope you're well. I had a recent problem that I think you'll find quite humorous, and I can't wait to tell you about it. Your friend, Travis. P.S. Hey, Ari, Travis doesn't want to admit that he has friends, so I put in the friend part, and he wants me to clarify that that was me and not him. He says you're one of the best regulars he's ever had.
Oh my god, I love
Tyler.
Travis.
Friends. Lovely. I just like smile and chuckle at it, and I'm just like enjoying it.
Gris. Outside, you are speaking with Lili and Lili as you sort of walk through the forest together. You find that both are adept foragers. It appears that this is kind of Lili's bread and butter, so to speak. She seems to forage for most of her food, and you are quite pleased with her attitude. She seems just as invested in the forest's health and sacredness as you are. Lili holds her own as well. She tells you a lot about her wood elf mother, who taught her all about these woods and would often spend hours with her as a child. The conversation soon, however, turns to your traveling party. Most of the conversation is led by Lili, and Lili is rather silent through the entire exchange. Your friend, the half-elf.
Yes, Lione.
She... What do you think of her?
Seems to be the question, huh?
Do you trust her?
No. I mean, I would have said maybe a month ago something a little different. But I think there was a fine line between wanting to save, well, the world and wanting power, and I feel like that line is very, very thin right now.
And how familiar are you with this legend of the betrayer?
The betrayer. I mean, are you talking about? I mean, seems like all of the songs, no offense from the elves' repertoire, seems to involve some sort of betrayer.
Well, the traitor who thought peace was the best option, even at the cost of everything we had. That traitor, the greatest sorcerer of his generation, to win the war, gave us all away for his own purposes.
Yes. Yes, I do know a good bit about him. He has actually killed me. So, hmm hmm yep, know a lot about the actual person. A little bit less about the elven songs about it. I do know the one about the lizard, and then the dreamer. I know those two.
The traitor, he betrayed his friends and the people who loved him
So
in
there's
order to serve his own
Elves.
purposes. And then, when he was stripped of his power, he planted a seed.
uh, like a baby seed or like a seed.
Well, you use our word for children. Surely you know a seed becomes a sapling, becomes a tree. And
Yes.
the fruit that his tree bears is the same that he does.
So is it not crazy to assume that his seed bears the same fate?
Betrayal reaps what it sows.
Yeah.
I can take you and your friend, sibling, where you want to go. But I will not lead the lizard that swallows the sun on a path that ultimately leads to destruction.
So what
I
would
hope you
do?
understand.
Of course, but it leaves me wondering what you would do were you in our situation.
His little foot. I know far too much about my own people's songs to ever be in your situation. And she hands you like a particularly large chicken of the woods and goes back to foraging. Lione, you open up the small envelope attached to Bertram's letter. There is a piece of parchment that has been folded dozens of times, and as you unfold it, you realize it is larger than the dining table. You spread it out on the living room floor, and it occupies the space unoccupied by bookshelves or chairs almost perfectly. Drawn on this piece of paper is a sigil. A large circle and smaller concentric circles marked by various lines. You don't recognize it other than it's some type of arcane magic with which you are unfamiliar. However, as you lay it across the floor with Ariadne's hesitant help, as it flattens out,
We also have the last sigil went.
It was from Bertram. It's fine. It's Bertram.
the paper sets alight, burning the mark of the sigil into the floor.
Sorry.
It glows a bright and brilliant purple, and the room fills with smoke. The smoke clears, and standing in the middle of it, looking as prim and proper as ever, stands Bertram. We will be back next week here on the Tabletop Tavern at 6 p.m. MST or MDT, 8 p.m. EST, 5 p.m. in California and the rest of the Pacific Coast. Until then, be good to each other. Be sure to check out our Discord. Check us out on Twitter. Our Discord is a great place to react to the episode. Spread your theories. You can also check out the YouTube if you've fallen behind. We're also available on Spotify, wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. Check out the Tabletop Tavern to catch up on what you've missed. If you want to know the context for all the crazy shit that happened this episode, last episode, any of that, that's where to find us. Thank you so much to all of you who showed up. Thank you for that raid earlier. We don't have chat open while we stream, just to keep the players and myself immersed, not let us get distracted. But we really, really, really appreciate any and all support from y'all, and we can't wait to hear what you thought about this episode. Thank you so much for hanging out with us. We'll see you soon.
Good night, everyone.